Welcome. Scott here. Here is a quick boss guide for the upcoming story chapter, Act 4 Chapter 4 Part 1 The Planet and the Immaculate. Weiss from Final Fantasy VII Dirge of Cerberus will be making his debut. The event synergy units Weiss, Papalymo, 9, Relm, and Cissnei. Weiss will be debuting with his full kit, which include his FR and his BT weapons along with FR boards. Relm will be the other returning FRBT unit. We will be fighting 2 Black Widow, which has 220 million each. There are no major resistances. The turn requirement is 45. The HP requirements is 8000. Before I continue further, here is a small disclaimer clause for the video. The guide is written based on the time that the event was released for the Japanese version. Please do note that it is possible that the boss fight mechanics might differ when the actual event is released in global. Like most other Shinryu fights, the boss gains increased brave damage and gain resistances at start of the fight and 79% HP threshold. Bringing a support like Iris, Setzer, Rosa, Bartz, Yuna, Pernello, Charlotta, Aerith, Ramza, Selpha that grants damage boosting aura will make your fight easier. As the boss gains substantial boost to their defenses with the auras, it is important to inflict debuffs that lower their defenses. On the screen, I have listed down the examples of the key utility that you can consider for this fight. To cancel the boss force time, you will need to use a melee FR. There is abundance of them. Examples are Weiss, Kor, Orin, Dorgan, Squall, Tifa, Pain, and Sephiroth. The boss will use Mako Cannon Plus when its HP reaches 79% and 39% HP threshold. Mako Cannon Plus is a single target, guaranteed hit brave attack that dispel a buff and inflict a poison debuff for 3 turns. At 39% HP threshold, before it uses Mako Cannon Plus, it will activate inflicted debuffs which will apply 3 frame debuffs, attack, speed, and max brave down for 5 turns. All debuffs inflicted during the threshold's attacks will bypass evasion and debuff evasion. You can only prevent them with debuff negation via Reno LD or Ragin LD debuffs. You can also prevent that if Weiss BT aura is active. After Mako Cannon Plus is used, it will stay at down state till the reboot HP threshold is reached. When in down state, the boss will not act, keep on repeating using down state loop. This is making units that triggers counters upon getting hit like Ruby Conte, the counter tanks, Orin, Golov, or Gladio or Beatrix quite unfavorable for this fight. Whereas, trap debuffs or preemptive strike attackers are more favorable for this fight. Depending on the number of fields turns taken, the aura gain will vary. Fields turn refer to either your party or boss actions, which calls as well. Do note that 1 burst phase equates to 1 field turn. Do not let that the field turns reaches 12, otherwise the boss will gain a red aura where it will use Reboot Plus followed by Guided Missile Plus Plus, which will dispel all your party buffs while inflicting self-harm HP damage. I will discuss more about the mechanics in the subsequent slides. At the 39% HP thresholds, the boss will also activate inflict debuffs which bypass debuff evasion or evasion before it uses Mako Cannon Plus. Generally, the fight can be considered a simple one, if you have the tools to handle. You cannot cheese the fight with the infamous ult Quina combo. Once the boss gains the red aura, i.e., you have taken 12 turns while it is in the down state, all your buffs will get dispelled by its Guided Missile Plus. Quina however is still useful for this fight as her BT aura allows you bypass the boss force time mechanics. As we are no longer have Lufania Plus fights, the boss guide will be focused primarily on Shinryu fights. In Shinryu, you need to understand the effects gained by the boss as the force gauge build up, its force ability and its force time effect. As your party has low force levels, it is highly certain that the boss force gauge will build up faster than yours. To have a better understanding on the basics of the force gauge mechanics and Shinryu fights, I have done a video explaining the mechanics. I have included the link to the video under the comments and video description for your quick reference. Throughout the fight, the boss will also gain 4% charge rate up when your party members act. The boss force gauge has another threshold at the 60% mark. When the boss gauge is more or equal to 60%, the boss will lower your party attack, brave damage, and brave gains by 50%. The boss force gauge will build up faster as its HP is lowered. You can refer to the table on the screen for the percentages. At the 100% threshold, the boss will use its force ability, Guided Missile Plus, and activates its force time for 10 turns. The boss force ability, Guided Missile Plus, will result the boss recovers from break, deal an AoE brave attack. It will deal 90% self HP harm damage and granting the boss party 300k brave shields. Do note that self-harm HP attack does not count to your HP requirements, but it will make your characters in danger of getting killed. If the boss is at down state when its force time is activated, the boss will cancel any aura active and trigger reboot to get out of down state, and followed by Guided Missile plus HP attack. Upon using the force ability, the boss will enter into its force time where the gauge will start to emit a red hue with a counter of 10 on its gauge. When the force time is activated, the bosses will gain an enhancement that will applies an aura that prevent your party from gaining any brave. During the force time, both bosses will use Machine Gun Plus, which is a single target ranged brave attack that delays the target by 1 turn. To deal the boss force weakness, you need to use a melee force ability that deals brave damage. Generally, there are a lot of the units that will meet the requirements. As long as you have a melee FR, you should be able to cancel the boss force time conditions easily. Alternatively, you can choose ignore the boss force time effects with Quina or FRBT. Now, let us go through the fight key mechanics. When the boss HP got depleted to 79%, it will trigger a threshold attack, Mako Cannon Plus, at a random target. Please do note this threshold attacks bypasses lock or aura lock mechanics. Mako Cannon Plus is a guaranteed hit, single target ranged brave attack. It will also dispel a buff from the target while inflicting a 3-turn framed poison debuff. The debuff infliction will bypass debuff evasion mechanics. You can block the debuff evasion with debuff negation utility like Ragin LD or Reno LD. The featured character Weiss BT Aura also can block this debuff. If you go past the threshold attack will trigger once you have exited the summon. After using the Mako Cannon Plus, the boss will enter down state status. You will see the machine breakdown. This is followed by down state loop where the boss will just end its turn doing nothing. The boss will stay in down state mode until the 59% HP threshold. So you might be wondering, is the fight that simple? Of course not. Upon activation, the boss will activate an aura mechanic. The system will do a check on the second down state loop. The type of color aura it gains will depend on the number of field turns that has lapsed. A field turn is any party action which includes your AA, or any enemy turn. Call ability are also counted as one field turn, while the entire burst phase is count as one turn. If the field turns lapse taken to second down state loop is less than 5 field turns, the boss will not gain any aura. If the number of field turn taken to second down state loop is between 5 to 9 turns, it will gain a blue aura. If the number of field turn taken to second down state loop is between 10 to 11 turns, it will gain a yellow aura. If the number of field turn taken to second down state loop is 12 turns and above, it will gain the red aura. If there is no aura or the aura is either blue or yellow, it will get out of down state upon triggering reboot. If it gains the red aura, it will trigger Reboot Plus instead of Reboot. After triggering Reboot Plus, the boss will cancel the aura and followed by using the Guided Missile Plus attack. Guided Missile Plus is a guaranteed hit, reset break status AoE brave that dispel all your party buffs and deals 90% self-harm HP damage. This is the mechanic that prevent the infamous ult Quina or Idaroth cheese combos. Here is a quick recap of the phase. Upon trigger the down state, you need to bring the boss HP down to 59% within 12 field turns to trigger reboot, thus avoiding the guided missile ++ trigger. At the 39% HP threshold, the boss will trigger inflicted debuffs. The debuffs inflicted will bypass debuff evasion. They are 3-frame debuffs: attack down, speed down, max brave down, that lower all these stats by 100% for 5 turns. You can prevent this with debuff negation utility like Reno or Ragin LDCA. If you has his BT, Weiss can prevent it as well. The trigger will also be prevented if the boss is under turn disable status like confusion or paralysis. If you activate the thresholds while you are in the burst or summon phase, the trigger will occur only after you have exited the phase. This is followed by the Mako Cannon Plus trigger and the boss will enter the down state. The mechaniques for the Mako Cannon Plus is the same as one at the 79% HP threshold. The boss will revert to normal state once it reaches the reboot threshold at the 19% HP threshold. The boss will keep on repeating down state loop whenever it gets a turn. On the second turn of the down state loop, the system will check the number of field turn lapsed. If the field turns lapsed taken to reboot HP threshold at 19% is less than 5 field turns, the boss will not gain any aura. If the number of field turn taken to second down state loop is between 5 to 9 turns, it will gain a blue aura. If the number of field turn taken to second down state loop is between 10 to 11 turns, it will gain a yellow aura. If the number of field turn taken to second down state loop is 12 turns and above, it will gain the red aura. If there is no aura or the aura is either blue or yellow, it will get out of down state upon triggering reboot. If it gains the red aura, it will trigger Reboot Plus instead of Reboot. After triggering Reboot Plus, the boss will cancel the aura and followed by using the Guided Missile ++ attack. In short, once the boss gets to down state, you need have 12 field turns to get to the 19% HP threshold. The boss has a simple moveset of rotating between Mako Cannon and Machine Gun. Both are single target ranged brave attacks. If the boss current brave is high, it will do a HP attack with rocket launcher. Here is a quick summary of the fight. At the 79% HP threshold, the boss will trigger Mako Cannon Plus and enter down state. At the 59% HP threshold, it will revert to normal with Reboot or Reboot Plus depending on the number of field turns lapsed at the second down state loop. If you get the red aura, the boss will follow up with Guided Missile ++. At the 39% HP threshold, the boss will trigger inflicts debuffs and followed by Mako Cannon Plus. Once Mako Cannon Plus is triggered, the boss will enter the down state. At the 19% HP threshold, it will revert to normal with Reboot or Reboot Plus depending on the number of field turns lapsed at the second down state loop. If you get the red aura, the boss will follow up with Guided Missile ++. In other words, you can see that you can afford to take a maximum 12 field turns to the second down state loop. Unless you have delayed the boss very far away, it is highly unlikely you will take 12 field turns. If you want to do boss no turns, the standard launch, delay, and follow-up strategy will work well here. Using your force time will help a lot in getting the boss HP lowered to reboot thresholds in the least number of turns taken. Do note that the boss can only gain one color aura at each Mako Cannon Plus to reboot phase. That is all for the boss mechanics. Let us cover the new character Weiss. Before I end the guide, let us cover a bit on the featured FR unit, Weiss. If you have gotten Relm, I would highly recommend to get her as supports generally offer great value for your resource investments. Relm will give you even more value if you are doing the green crystal quests. As Weiss is a new unit, I will go through a bit about his kit before covering his FR and burst mechanics. Weiss is a melee-based preemptive strike target unit. He will use his additional attack before allies take their turns. For his own turn, he will trigger the additional attack before his turn and another additional attack after his turn. The additional attack will trigger if you have his EX buff Bullets of Ruin active. His S1 is single target melee brave plus HP attack 6 times and grants his framed buff Deep Ground Ruler for 6 turns. His S2 is an AoE melee brave plus split HP attack 6 times and grants his framed buff Deep Ground Ruler for 6 turns as well. The buff Deep Ground Rule gives slight boost to Weiss attack and max brave. His AA will grant him auras that raises his attack, max brave and brave damage cap by 40% for 4 turns. His EX is an instant turn AoE melee brave plus HP attack and grants him his Bullets of Rain buff for 6 turns. It will increase his brave by 20% after the attack. Bullet of Rain buff is the buff that allows Weiss to trigger his additional attacks. The buff also boosts Weiss attack by 20%, max brave overflow by 20%, allows him to retain 20% of his brave after HP attacks and 20% HP damage up. Bullet of Rains will trigger his additional attack, which is an AoE brave plus HP attack 3 times with 80% splash. The additional attacks will when the following condition are met. It will trigger before any ally's turns and after Weiss' own turn. His LD is a single target brave plus HP attack execute 7 times with 50% splash and grant Weiss his last framed buff, the Immaculate. The buff will raise Weiss brave damage, HP damage, stolen and gain max brave overflow and boost stolen brave overflow. Generally, Weiss will gain a lot of brave from his attacks. His FR is an AoE melee brave plus HP attack executed 4 times. If his Bullets of Rain buff is active, he will trigger an additional attack before his turn and another attack after his turn. Let us go through the force conditions. For any ally, you will gain 5% HP damage bonus for using a melee attack. Weiss will get 20% HP damage bonus. The condition will meet for off-turn damage as well. Partners that can abuse this condition are Core, Cissnei, Leo, Dorgan, and generally the melee tanks of 8, Orin, Golub and Gladio. If you inflict break or attack a broken target, you will get 40% HP damage bonus. To make your job of trigger break easier, you can either freeze the boss brave with freeze mechanics or set the boss brave to single digit with Iris or Sephiroth BT. With just Weiss as a primary linked attacker and another main melee attacker, for example Squall, upon using a melee attack and you break the target, you will get 65% HP damage bonus. 40% is from the inflict break condition, 20% from Weiss additional attack and 5% is when you use a melee attack. If you bring Core as the other link attacker or have Leo BT aura active, you will get 70% with the melee follow-up attack getting the additional 5%. In general, to make full use of this FR you need to set a party of melee attackers. As long as you can constantly inflict break and Weiss able to trigger his additional attacks, you can easily get 65% HP damage bonus per turn. As the FR does not provide any aura or isn't generic enough. Most players usually save Weiss FR as an echo, as you might be better off using a generic FR phase like Setzer or Rosa if they are available. Let me cover a bit on Weiss BT aura. The BT aura lasts 6 turns. Like most BT, Weiss BT gives the following aura upon activation. It will raise both your brave damage and brave damage cap by 50%, HP damage by 20% and max brave cap by 30% for the party. While the BT aura is active, your party deal max brave cap HP damage, you will get true 10% HP damage added to your damage. The BT aura also protect your party from any guaranteed hit debuffs. Do note that the aura does not protect the party against debuff auras like Dimensions and Transcendence tier 15 bosses force ability. So, is Weiss a worthwhile investment? As long as you have his EX passive active, Weiss can consistently trigger his preemptive attack before any party turns. Even with just his FR along with his base kit weapon passives, he is quite a viable budget option. As he is a preemptive attacker, a lot of players will associate him with the famous Core. Although they have similar mechanics, Weiss is more suitable for rush-down strategies while Core is more suitable for off-turn team comps. If you have the resources, you can opt to go for him since both of them complement each other well in a team comp. With this, I have come to the end of my boss guide presentation. Hopefully you find it useful. If you like the video, please give a like. Please subscribe to my channel for future gaming content. Good luck for the fight in the coming day. Bye.